Bamboo fire, bamboo, what kind of fire? Bamboo, hot, hot fire, bamboo, too much fire.
Bamboo fire, what kind of fire?
Bamboo fire makes so, makes so.
Bamboo fire, what kind of fire?
Bamboo fire makes so, makes so.
Bamboo fire, what kind of fire?
Bamboo fire makes so, makes so.
Bamboo fire, what kind of fire?
Bamboo fire makes so, makes so. Bamboo fire, hot, hot fire.
Bamboo fire makes so, he makes so.
Bamboo fire, hot, hot fire.
Bamboo fire makes so, he makes so.
Bamboo fire makes so,
he makes so.
bamboo fire makes so.
6 o'clock and the thing not ready.
Fire makes so, makes so.
6 o'clock and the thing not ready.
Bamboo fire makes so, makes so.
6 o'clock and the thing not ready.
Bamboo fire makes so, makes so.
6 o'clock and the thing not ready.
Bamboo fire makes so, makes so. I come home and the pot not done yet.
Bamboo fire makes so, he makes so.
I come home and the pot not done yet.
Bamboo fire makes so, he makes so.
I come home and the rice not fire.
Bamboo fire makes so, he makes so. Bamboo fire makes so, he makes so. Bamboo fire, hot, hot fire.
Bamboo fire makes so, makes so.
Bamboo fire, hot, hot fire.
Bamboo fire makes so, makes so.
Bamboo fire, hot, hot fire.
Fire makes so, makes so.
Bamboo fire, hot, hot fire.
Fire makes so, makes so. Give me the water, the out of the fire.
Bamboo fire makes so, he makes so.
Give me the water, the out of the fire.
Bamboo fire makes so, he makes so.
Give me the water, the out of the fire.
Bamboo fire makes so, he makes so.
Give me the water, the out of the fire.
Bamboo fire makes so, he makes so.
Bamboo, bamboo fire makes so. Bamboo, bamboo fire makes so. Bamboo, bamboo fire makes so. Bamboo, bamboo fire makes so, makes so, makes so, makes so. Bamboo fire makes so, makes so.
Bamboo fire, what kind of fire?
Bamboo fire makes so, makes so.
Bamboo fire, what kind of fire?
Bamboo fire makes so, makes so.
Bamboo fire, what kind of fire?
Bamboo fire makes so, makes so. Bamboo fire, hot, hot fire.
Bamboo fire makes so, he makes so.
Bamboo fire, hot, hot fire.
Hello, this is attorney Shellen Washington, owner and founder of the Washington Law Firm located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.
Oh, Jesus Christ, if cost of living double, I don't know what happened. A pound of sugar is $300 already. Flour, everything gone up. Everything just raising. You gotta get about $40,000 for buy good ration. You gotta get 3 man now. A weekend man, a monthly man, and a fortnight man.
Yes, my name is Jacinti Caldata, Francis, Vietnam, and since 1965, I become a voter, and I always place my ex next to the cop. And what they are doing today, I can't take it. So I have no more vote to give to PPP anymore. I'm not going to vote anymore no more. If they have to lose by one vote, they're losing it by data.
All right. Hey, guess what? Good evening and welcome again. You guys can already see that Lemon is back on the job. Not sure what photograph, where he found this photograph from, but for many of you who wondering, who probably are not Guyanese and who might be sitting somewhere wondering who that guy is. Who exactly is this guy? Not our guest tonight. The guest tonight is Tom. You guys know Tom Anderson. He's no stranger. He's been here many times. He's a friend of Guyanese. He likes to peep and see what's happening in Guyana. He likes to talk about Guyana. And, you know, I have some questions for Tom Anderson this evening. And one of the questions I have for him is, why is he so much in love with Guyana? I got to ask that question. I really do have to ask Tom Anderson. Do share the link, though, and let folks know that we're live. We are live on 107.1 FM. Share the link, and let's continue with our same behavior, political behavior from 2023. Well, I don't know. I want to ask Tom this question here. Let's get straight over to Tom. If Lemon can just have Tom Anderson on the program right here on 107.1 FM. Good evening, Tom. How are you?
Hey, Mark, man, great to be back. Hello to everyone in Guyana, everybody in New York, everyone in Canada. Hello, everybody. Great to be back.
Thank you. Good to see you back. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year.
Yep. We're glad that it's 2024, and we're glad that Tom is back with us, at least for now. I know you're going to do a couple of shows whenever we invite you occasionally, and then you'll just zoom away from us until you're ready to rock and roll again. Yes, and let's say good evening to all of our listeners. I notice, Wayne Caesar is usually on occasionally, but he's busy doing his taxes. He's working, doing his thing. But tonight is just Tom, the two of us tonight. Do you recognize this guy?
I do. On the picture there with the belly.
Yeah.
That's the doctor. That's the good doctor.
Yeah,
Dr.
the guy who went to a university in Guyana that doesn't exist.
There you
The
go.
guy who got his first degree from a university that doesn't exist. Tom, I know this is impossible for even a presidential candidate. Look at what happened to that guy in Congress. What's his name? That just got expelled, just got kicked out.
Santos.
Yeah. And look at this guy is allowed to get away with all sort of things. He went to a university that doesn't exist. All manner of things. But Tom, let's get straight down to this. I need your opinion, not about this. I know you've been people into Guyana's politics. You could never tell us who this guy is.
Actually, I don't know who that is. Who is that? Who
That
is
is
that?
Imagine an American politician behaving like this. This is a guy who was the deputy speaker of the National Assembly, and that's what we have reduced ourselves to, or the folks in Guyana have reduced themselves to. This is Schumann. I'm not sure if you heard of that guy, Schumann.
I haven't. No, I haven't been. Not at all, man. Just so everyone knows, I have totally unplugged. Just so you guys know, I did, and I did it on purpose because I wanted to make sure when things came back into a cycle where I could be a part of it, that I could come in without any bias and I could actually listen to what you had to say, Mark. So please tell me about this gentleman, Schumann, please.
Yeah, this is Schumann. He got a seat. He is more pro PPP, but he is supposedly from one of the smaller parties that were given a seat as the regime was installed, and they corrupt the electoral process in Guyana, making it appear that the coalition did something egregious. But knowing very well that the elections was actually set for the corrupt PPP to be in there. And this guy, Schumann, really, he's not much to be talked about, but he's just been absent. He's been very quiet these days. He has drank a lot of soup, as we say in Guyana, soup drinker. He disappeared, and he just grabbed his 2 balloons, and he's gone. He's out of there. So I guess I just got that message from someone who was asking, where is Schumann? Schumann is nowhere. He's drinking soup. But Tom, this is what I want to ask you here.
Yeah.
Just take a look at this. They are saying the regime, the guy who heads the Ministry of Home Affairs, is saying to guys who have guns, illegal guns, just toss your guns into the police station and run away. That's it. If you have a gun, just toss it into the police station. What is your take on this here? Just toss your gun into the police station and run away. What's your take on this?
Well, that doesn't, I mean, that's just not how you do it, right? They should be actually purchasing the guns from the people, have a gun buyback like everywhere else that has a gun problem. The first thing I think on that though is so we're very good with technology these days, and fingerprints and DNA and all that stuff is all over these guns. So, I doubt they're going to get very many people dropping them off, just throwing them over to the police station, because it's kind of hard to get rid of all the DNA and everything. No matter how hard you try, it's going to be something there. So yeah, that's not going to work. I mean, I don't know. I don't even know why he's even saying that, but that's strange.
Well, it appears, Tom, that these guys just get up whatever side of the bed, and this guy, Ropes and Ben, just decided he's going to get up, thinking people are going to listen, fall for this crap. But like you said, there's DNA, and then of course there's the cameras, and you toss your gun in there. Some guy decide that they're going to toss their gun. Just be so nice and say, hey, I have a 9. Let me toss it in the police station, and nothing is going to become of that. Come on, it's a trap.
Yeah. It's
But
not,
do you know,
yeah.
I don't know if you've noticed that they now, what is it? Barrett Jack, dear, your friend, has been saying that they have facial recognition now. And this facial recognition that they have in Guyana, the images goes other places, far off. We know where the images go. What is your take on him saying that they now have facial recognitions? And the facial recognition is not just for Guyana. It goes somewhere off, maybe China, wherever, I don't know. What is your take on this?
Oh yeah, that's a big deal in today's world, is the facial recognition technology. There are several companies that are dabbling in it, but what tends to happen is the raw information is processed by an outside company, and that outside company a lot of times is owned by people who we really don't know who owns it, but companies are involved. And so all the information that's being basically swept up in Guyana becomes a part of the international database for all of these faces of people from all over the earth, right? So no matter where you go, if you leave Guyana, you go to the continent in Africa, if you go anywhere else, Europe, United States, you will be spotted by the eyes in the sky, by the cameras all around, and you can be tracked no matter where you go. So the danger in that is of course, if you run into a problem where, let's say, a country like China, they abuse human rights all the time. So if they're mad at you, then they can track you no matter where you go in the world and harass you or do whatever they want to do to you. That's what's been happening with this technology. So it is worrisome when it's being used in countries like Guyana, simply because Guyana doesn't really have a domestic, crime problem that you need facial recognition technology for, right? Like it's not that deep in Guyana. Now there are serious things, but you need facial recognition when you have issues like we have in the United States, where you have people doing in one day, going out and doing like school shootings, or they're going out in their human trafficking. I know this happens in Guyana, but the problem is when you do this technology, you have to have it somewhere where there is electronics. So a lot of the bad stuff happening in Guyana is happening out in the jungle, is happening out in these parts where there aren't very many authorities, and the facial recognition just doesn't apply out there. So that is going to be a very urban thing. Anybody in Georgetown, probably, if they have it, they've got all of your faces on file, and that will stay in the hands of probably every government in the world to forever, right? So that's a big issue, actually.
It's actually the company that's actually providing that is a Chinese company, I think is Huawei.
Mm. That's
Okay.
interesting because that same company, so they work with some people there. There's a man from Chicago that is one of the brains behind Huawei, and he's very active in the United States and around the world, helping the CCP push their agenda socially, push the communist agenda. He's a communist, and so Huawei being involved in it, so everything is being sent back to Beijing, and it's all being dissected and parsed out, and probably everybody has a file on them now in Georgetown, most likely, sitting somewhere in some computer hard drive in the bottom of some mountain cave outside of Beijing.
Absolutely. If you're now joining us, Tom Anderson is back with us for this evening. In terms of the information, there was this Home Affairs Permanent Secretary, and she worked for this very guy who is now saying to Guyanese, folks should just, if you have a gun, just toss it over the fence, just toss it into the police compound, just toss it, pick it up, take it out of your pocket, and just go and toss it. So still back at this here, what if now they grab some young man, police at a roadblock and say, hey, wait a minute, you have an illegal weapon. Well, sir, I saw the Minister of Home Affairs saying that we should toss our guns, and I was just on my way to the police station to toss my gun. It's a winnable case there, right?
That's ridiculous, man. That's so crazy.
So this woman worked for him, and she's the one who had her phone confiscated by U.S. authorities. Now, back to this facial recognition. It is said that persons of questionable characters, people who are wanted by U.S. authorities, have access to these, to the facial recognition and also the CCTV cameras around Georgetown. How dangerous is this, Tom, for democracy?
Well, that's the thing, right? So the facial recognition, it's not, when you think about law enforcement in the modern world, law enforcement is all about catching people after the crime is done. There isn't really much prevention. Facial recognition technology is for prevention. It's supposed to be for prevention, to catch the bad guy before they do something. But since our systems in the modern world aren't designed for stopping the crimes, it's for going after the perpetrators after they commit it. What ends up happening with the facial recognition technology is it gets used to control populations, to harass individuals. I mean, we have, United States, we just had MLK Day, Martin Luther King Jr., national holiday, earlier this week on Monday. And the FBI back then tracked MLK. They ran psychological operations on him. They spied on him. They were recording all of his phone calls. Imagine if the FBI back then had facial recognition technology. He would have nowhere to hide. They did all of that without any technology to him. So imagine in the modern world today, if anyone were to try to be another Martin Luther King Jr. and try to create peaceful change in the country they live in, no matter where it is in the world, facial recognition technology will probably be used to eradicate that individual, right? That's the danger of the technology. And we're living in an age where people aren't understanding how this technology is being abused and how it will be abused, right? And so that's the big issue with it, in my opinion.
And that gives dictators and even very bad governments the opportunity to, like you've just said, to go after political opponents and possibly eliminate them or possibly find ways to persecute them. Again, another dangerous trend.
That's right. That's right. That's what the technology is going to be used for, unfortunately. And the other thing is this, right? It allows a few people in the world to control the majority of what everyone does, right? So with this technology, a handful of billionaires or oligarchs are going to have access to it, and they get to use it however they want. And they've got private companies that work for them, and they're going to use this technology to get wealthier, to get more powerful. That's the issue with it, is that it's not a technology that's useful to the general public, to the little guy. It's not like it's technology that the government of Guyana is handing out to, residents in Georgetown and saying, hey, you can use this app on your phone, and with the facial recognition technology, if you see something suspicious, you can use it and give us a tip. That's not how they're doing it. It's only being used or being accessed by specific individuals, very few, and the information is only accessed by even fewer people, right? So until it's technology that we all can use, it's going to be dangerous.
Very, very dangerous. At 23 minutes after 9 o'clock Guyana time, Eastern Standard Time is quite different. Lots of other things we want to talk about. Tom, since you've been away, the elections petition, the PPP regime, they have been talking about rigged elections. They have accused the opposition of rigging the elections or attempting to rig the elections. They claim that they got all of the evidence. It's over 3 years now. The PPP regime, now that they're in office, they have been fighting tooth and nail to ensure none of the elections petitions are heard. You no longer hear them asking for SOPs, which is the statement of polls. Nothing they've been asking for. But yet the people that they have charged, Keith Lowenfield, Clement Mingo, Roxanne Myers, and others for conspiracy to defraud in terms of electoral fraud, there is no evidence. Are you surprised, Tom, that 3+ years after, and you're back on this show again, and they have not made any headway with this those charges against those individuals? What is your take on that?
Not surprised. Guyana, still isn't a country that can hold, fair elections that everyone will believe in. And it's still not a country that can go and investigate election fraud and people believe the investigation was valid. That's one of the things I was saying since the last time I was on, that the biggest problem that, the opposition, the PPP has, any opposition, both parties, everyone has in Guyana, is no one's really thinking about just having a good election, no matter who wins. No one's thinking about, let's have institutions in place that ensure if there is fraud, that we can swiftly deal with it and rectify it before the results are finalized. Like, these aren't the thoughts. The thoughts are, we're going to catch those other guys cheating and wait, we're going to prove it to the world. That's not how that's not how it works. So hopefully people can hear the show now who are in power, and they can finally just, stop worrying about the bad guys, whoever it is in the opposition party that you're mad at, and just start thinking about, hey man, for your family, for your people, just focus on having a fair election and having institutions in place that can deal with fraud swiftly and correct mistakes and correct issues before the final results are put in. It's not that hard, really, because we're not talking about a huge population in Guyana, and we're not talking about a lawless people either, right? This is a people that want law and order. Hello. So it's just like, the leaders just have to acquiesce and just give the people what they want: fair elections and the ability to rectify any kind of fraud. It's not that hard.
Tom, you looking into Guyana and the situations there whenever you have time, and I'm sure that you've been doing a lot of looking into the 2020 elections. The fact that the PPP has not proven any wrongdoing on the part of the coalition, the fact that lots of evidence point in the direction that the PPP has rigged the elections, and if we go to this list here, we see 61 dead voters, 4,864 absent voters, 150 stuffed ballot boxes, Tom, 47 ballot boxes without documents, 1,278 missing oaths of identity. You sitting on the outside. What is your take, and are you convinced that what the PPP has been saying all along in terms of their propaganda, that the opposition rigged the elections? Are you convinced based on the PPP's argument?
No, because I don't think there's a system in place that can even track the rigging, if there is any. That's the problem, that there isn't a legitimate system in place to catch fraud. It just isn't there, right? And so if you don't have a legitimate system in place to catch fraud in elections, then you can't claim that some side committed fraud. And that's for both sides. Like, it's hard for me to say the PPP committed fraud because I'll tell you what, I don't know. The system is so messed up in Guyana. There's no way to know what happened, right? And so, that's the big problem that's occurring here, right? Is there just isn't a baseline of legitimacy. That's it.
None whatsoever, because they have not proven their argument or the accusations.
That's it.
It all led,
and they can't prove it because there isn't a system in place to be able to prove it. That's the problem.
And one of the things that people can just assume that maybe outside folks really thought that it was time for regime change. Who knows? And the oil may have played a major role. I don't know. Tom?
Well, look, it doesn't really, from an outsider's perspective, it doesn't really matter who is in charge in Guyana. From an outsider's perspective, for this reason, because from an outsider's perspective, we see a nation that is pretty well off as far as natural resources go. We see a nation that, the people are good people. And we look at that and we say, okay, well, all they have to do is just get their stuff in order and they'll be fine. Like, it doesn't even matter.
If I pause you there for a moment,
Yeah.
when you say get your stuff together, what exactly, break that down for us, please?
Yeah, getting your stuff together. So, putting the nation above personal greed, for example, like that just doesn't happen in Guyanese politics. That so many elected officials put personal greed over the welfare of the nation, and it's ridiculous because there's more than enough to go around. That's what's so crazy, right? That's the head scratcher, is if there's so much to go around, there's so much greed on an individual level. If they would realize that, hey, if we worked together as a people, we all would get so much more individually than if we continue to do what we're doing now, which is greedy individual stuff. That's what an outsider looks at when we look at Guyana and go, oh, get their stuff together. Okay, stop being greedy on an individual level and start thinking about your entire nation. Why is that so hard to do? That's the part that gets frustrating for us, because we keep scratching our head wondering why. In America, you can complain about Americans, and there's a lot to complain about. But the one thing that we do is we look out for ourselves as Americans. Like, we care about that. And we care about operating as a group and as a nation, especially when it comes to things like law and order, things like economic security, that kind of stuff. We all group together on. It doesn't happen in Guyana, and it's petty. The stuff that divides the people in Guyana is so petty. So yeah, getting yourself together there is get rid of the pettiness and get rid of the individual greed. And I think the place will just rock and roll from there. Really. All
right, Tom Anderson, I'll take you. Let's take a drive in around Georgetown. We're on our way over to Congress Place. Congress Place. We're leaving the corrupt PPP and dictatorial Freedom House section. We're going over to Congress Place. Since you just mentioned that, why don't we all get along and work in the best interest of the people in general? There has been lots and lots of accusations of discrimination, whether racial discrimination, political discrimination, corruption in the private sector commission, corruption in the higher ups of the PPP regime, all manner of things. Let's go to Congress Place. I want to ask you a question about Congress Place. Do you think that, or looking into Guyana, do you believe that the opposition is doing enough in order to hold the PPP regime accountable?
I don't think so. Just, like I said, I stepped away totally and haven't looked, but I have. When I say stepped away totally, I mean that means I'm not deep diving into stuff in Guyana. I have seen some things, and I will say that I have been let down from just an outsider's perspective on the opposition, because I don't see them doing the on the ground work that's necessary. I saw the stuff with Venezuela, and it shocked me to see people out there in the quarantine saying that They don't even know who their representatives are in the Guyanese government. They've never spoken to anybody. Their land was about to be taken over by another country, and no one in the Guyanese government was telling them anything. They were totally in the dark. And I just thought, why is it that the opposition party isn't out there? Why is it that they aren't on the ground with all of these people in these areas that are being ignored? And it just, the problem is that the opposition, I don't know if they're really looking at the situation from a bird's eye view. I think they've been locked into local politics and they're stuck on this local view. And if they were able to just rise above it and look at the situation from a higher perspective, they'd realize that there is a lot of opportunity for them to make a lot of political headway. But most likely the way to do it is through the citizens on the ground and through business, right? And what do I mean by that? So I look at, for example, who in Guyana is lobbying the US government here in Washington, D.C. And I don't see much. But I can look at other countries and I will see in other countries like Albania, there will be construction companies lobbying members of Congress. A construction company in Albania will be lobbying members of Congress in Washington, D.C. It's because all of these other nations, like in Europe and other places, they've figured out, oh, wait a minute. If we can rise above our own little local squabbles, what's happening is we see that, whoa, there are other nations like China, Russia, the United States, who have a heavier hand on what's happening domestically with them than their own governments. And it's like, for example, with Guyana, Russia, China, the United States, the ABC nations have a lot of influence on Guyana, maybe more Guyana than domestic politicians. And if that's the case, then the opposition party has to wake up and realize, well, they have to reach out to the ABCs. They have to do some lobbying in Washington, D.C. I don't see it happening. And they should be doing it through their business owners in the opposition. And what happens when you do that is there will be people in the PPP that are also business owners who will be very interested in what's being lobbied for in DC for everyone in Guyana. So it may be the opposition party and it may be a businessman from there, but whatever he's lobbying for will benefit everybody in Guyana. That's the stuff that needs to happen, and they're not doing it, right? And I wonder why.
I guess by now we all can assume why. A lack of foreign affairs leadership in the opposition. We don't see that in the regime anyways, the PPP regime. There's no lobbyist group. There's nothing really that's happening. And I can understand exactly where you're coming from with that. Now,
I mean, if you really think about it, right? Yeah. How much influence do the ABC countries have on Guyana? A lot. Well, the people in Guyana, the citizens in Georgetown, they can't speak to any elected officials in the ABC countries. They can't. So who's going to speak for them? It has to be their own elected officials, their own business leaders there in Guyana, but they're not doing it. Instead, what they're doing is sitting back and allowing everyone from the ABC countries to dictate to them how they're going to do their business in their country. How does that work? That doesn't work.
And that's a good point. You cannot allow the ABC countries to dictate how the heck you should govern your own country. And I made that point because you hardly see that in Jamaica, Barbados, and other places, but yet Guyana, it's allowed to happen.
Well, guess what? In Jamaica, if you look, they're lobbying Washington, D.C. They're in Canada. They're in the UK. They're cutting business deals. They're doing all kinds of stuff outside of Jamaica, right? You don't see that happening with Guyana. And it's just like, well, what's that about? Why is that? What's going on? And to me, it just seems like they're so stuck on fighting each other domestically that they've never just broken from the fight to look at what's going on around and realize, whoa, we're picking the wrong fight here with each other. There's other things on the outside coming down on us that we need to be dealing with. And we actually need to help each other to do that. That's not happening.
You know, Tom, you're correct. It's not happening. Bad leadership all across the board. You know, we just heard of $1 trillion budget, a population just about 750,000 people. $1 trillion budget, and the emphasis is on infrastructure, just roads and that's it. Massive level of corruption. But you mentioned businessmen lobbying, US, maybe Canada, and so forth. We've got to be careful with a lot of these businessmen in the PPP too, because some of them are wanted by US law enforcement agencies, money laundering, drugs, terrorism. So, you know, those are the set of people who have the money or
But
access.
that, oh, but no, no, no. No, you're wrong. See,
Correct me.
So if you really look at how much it costs to lobby Washington, D.C., it's really cheap. It's really cheap. For about $10,000 US dollars, you can do some amazing things that will bring millions and millions and millions of dollars to Guyana for 10,000, right? I mean, we're not talking big money here. This is not that much. Here's the issue, right? If there are businessmen in Guyana who are so corrupt and so evil and so bad,
and we know there are few. We know there are quite a few.
That they can't do any lobbying in DC. Well, that's fine, because the businessmen who can will. And guess what will happen over time? The businessmen who are lobbying DC will slowly but surely leapfrog over these evil guys who are in power now. They'll be pushed down into the muck. And that's the way to do it. That's why I look at the opposition party and I say to myself, well, instead of fighting these guys, the PPP guys, tooth and nail the way they are, which you have to do, you have to fight them, but the way they're fighting them is wrong.
But they're not even fighting them tooth and nail.
I know they're not. I know. But if they were to worry about their economic interests a little more and start lobbying these ABC nations and start having some influential discussions with the elected officials in the ABC countries, they will find that their power in Guyana will expand exponentially, like boom, overnight. So I would say that should be probably the best move they can make, is start reaching out to ABC countries and start talking to the elected officials here, because guess what? Guyana now, and we spoke about this earlier, Guyana is on the map. It matters in the world. Guyana matters a lot. So if anyone from Guyana who holds power wants to speak to people in Washington, D.C., the people in Washington, D.C. are going to want to talk to them, desperately want to talk to them, because Guyana is very important now. So that's why I'm looking at the situation. I'm saying, well, why aren't they taking an event? Strike while the iron's hot. They need to start reaching out.
Credible people lobbying, experienced people, knowledgeable people in terms of the foreign service section of the opposition. It's lacking. It's grossly lacking experience in foreign service and foreign affairs. Let's move away from that. Let's head back to Guyana, Tom. Back to Guyana. Recently, former U.S. Secretary of State made a surprise visit to Guyana. Nobody knew. But this visit was supposedly not to go and swim in the black water or to go and lime or whatever. It's to go straight, directly to this guy, a private meeting with this guy. And so Mike Pompeo, former U.S. Secretary of State, was in Guyana for a private meeting. He is the former U.S. Secretary of State. To have a private meeting, private, as we would say in Guyana, Tom, a private meeting. Before you respond to that, I want to take a quick break. We'll take a quick break and be right back. And I need for you to answer that. Give us your opinion on why Mike Pompeo had this private meeting with Irfan Ali.
Oh, Jesus Christ, if cost of living double, I don't know what happened. A pound of sugar is $300 already. flour, everything gone up. Everything just raising. You gotta get about $40,000 for buy good ration. You gotta get 3 man now. A weekend man, a monthly man, and a fortnight man.
Tom, there's no reaction, nothing coming out of you there. What did you understand from that lady?
That, like the last time I was on a while back, I said that prices were going to go through the roof on things like sugar. I said this.
So did you understand what she meant? She said,
oh yeah, yeah, man, the prices have doubled on sugar, on wheat, on everything. Yeah.
You know what I mean? You got to get 3 men, she is saying, to survive.
Exactly. Yeah, no, that's right. No, that's where, look, I was warning about this, man. I said this. I said, hey, remember I said the war in Ukraine was going to have a direct impact on the price of food in Guyana. And the reason why I knew it is because as soon as the war in Ukraine started, all of the Russians ran to the grocery stores to try to get sugar before it ran out. They ran out of sugar. Now, why would the Russian population be rushing to get sugar when a war breaks out in Ukraine? Because they knew that more than likely their sugar supply was going to get cut off because they get it imported, right? And so I said to myself, okay, well, where are they going to get imported from? Guyana is probably one of the places that they will look to for sugar. And even if it's not Guyana, them rushing in like that was going to cause the prices to raise, and all the prices around the globe are going to raise because of that. So like she said, everybody now is having to find, women are finding 3, 4 men, 5 guys. They've got to do it. Everyone has to do whatever they can to try to survive. But the scary part about all of this is that it's not going to subside. This is not going to get better. It's going to get worse. I hate to bring the bad news, but it's going to get worse. And the reason why it's going to get worse is because of the war over there in Ukraine. Food is running out all over the world. And we're about to have a situation in a place in Africa coming up here where there could be war, a big war in Africa because of this food problem. So that means that places like Guyana and other places in South America, any place where there's a bread basket where a lot of food is being grown, there's going to be a lot of pressure on the domestic population on the prices, because the food is a premium now around the world, and there's too much profit to be made by exporting, right? So rather than selling domestically. So it's only going to get worse. And hopefully, like I said before, the government of Guyana pays attention to this, and they put a focus on the food supply for the domestic population going forward, because this is only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse.
Absolutely. Tom Anderson is reminding us that it is going to get worse. A year plus ago, he did say that we are going to be where we are now in terms of food shortages, prices got skyrocketing. He didn't mention, though, that it will 3 men. He didn't mention that part.
I forgot about that.
You forgot about that. Tom, let's head back.
Yeah, well, look, the private meeting between Pompeo and Dr. Ali, that to me, from my perspective here in the States, Pompeo's coming now because he is, I think, probably foreseeing a Trump win in November. And he's coming there now to set the stage and put things in place with Dr. Ali for things to happen once Trump wins in November. That's what I think is going on. That's my opinion.
When you said for things to happen, Tom, for things, in Guyana, when you said something gonna happen, or again, something, what thing, please, what thing? Said what thing?
Okay, so first of all, right, Guyana has always been known as a midway point for smugglers of all kinds, drugs, people, weapons, money, you name it. It just is what it is. Okay. So a Trump presidency, right, is one in which, first of all, the immigration coming from Guyana will be totally shut down. all gone. You won't, the visas, everything is he will clamp down on that. It's going to be very hard to come into the United States. And even if you do, he's going to make it very difficult for anybody coming in here. Period. End of story. So that alone is going to create situations in Guyana domestically that won't be nice, right? First off, what that will then create, in my opinion, will be a massive amount, an explosion of all types of smuggling and laundering. Because if you shut down the border and you shut down legal immigration into our country, and yet we're constantly getting money and resources from down there where we still need people coming here for work and stuff. So we're still going to do it, but it's going to be all shut down by the Trump administration. What does that create? It creates lawlessness. So we're going to have an explosion in all types of smuggling and all types of, and that can only be really bad for Guyana. And so the question is, well, why would Pompeo need to be there now? Well, because when that chaos ensues, there are interests in Guyana, big company interests, American company interests like ExxonMobil. They have to still be able to get the oil out of the ocean, out of the ground. And why do they have to be able to still be able to get it? Because the world needs it. Without the oil of Guyana, the world is in a very bad place. Very bad place. You're talking about more war. So I can see how Pompeo would have to be there now to try to get things put in place so that everything goes smoothly with the oil, because the oil is king for everyone in the world. And I believe that's what Pompeo is there to ensure flows no matter what happens in Guyana.
All right. I've noticed some people saying you went to collect a brown bag. You know what a brown bag is?
I know.
You know what's going on.
See, that fine. He could have collected that. That's fine. But what really matters is the timing. It's heading into an election here. And if you look at where Guyana's place is in the world right now, not just with oil, but also with food. And also on top of that, Guyana's history of smuggling and all other sorts of things. You can see how a guy like Mike Pompeo would be pressed into action to make sure that investments by ABC countries in Guyana do well. Now, he could get brown paper bags for that, but guess what? He's actually doing a job, right? Now, the question is, do the people of Guyana want that situation? I don't think they do. But if Trump is elected, there's no stopping that. He will create an immigration nightmare, right? Everyone here in America is like, oh, it's already an immigration nightmare here. Yeah, we're having a nightmare here. But if he shuts down the nightmare here, guess what happens? The nightmare goes to there. You guys. It's not like Trump is going to shut down the nightmare here and then go shut it down over where you guys are. No, he's just shifting it back to you. Okay. But the problem is shifting that kind of nightmare to Guyana with the importance of Guyana's position in the world. It's going to take a guy like Mike Pompeo to go over there to make sure that when all the chaos ensues, the oil still comes out just fine. And okay, maybe gets a brown paper bag for that, but he should get something. I mean, he's doing a job, right? So I don't know. I'm not saying one way or the other, what's better or what's not. All I'm saying is there's nothing free in life. And if Trump deals with the immigration problem that we have here the way he says he's going to do it, it is going to create a nightmare in places like Guyana. I'm sorry. And let me tell you something. Trump don't care. He doesn't care. And you know what else? No Americans care either. We don't care on that. We just don't. Once it's your problem, it's your problem, and that's on you. That's how we're going to look at it. So this is something to be really watchful of, because to me, it's saying, man, Trump may win in November. That's what it's saying for me as an American. But on top of that, if that's the case, you're talking about a nightmare on top of a nightmare for the people of Guyana because of what Trump will do to rectify this immigration problem here.
Serious immigration problems indeed. And if you have immigration problems, Trump has said that he's going to be tough on that. all manner of stuff. And so you guys know what to do if you have serious issues or problems with immigration. It's going to get worse under a Trump administration. But how much credibility, though, internationally, Mike Pompeo has stemming from this press
He has
conference?
a lot. He has a lot because
Hi.
Is the State Department currently preparing to engage with the Biden transition team? And if not, at what point does a delay hamper a smooth transition or pose a risk to national security?
There will be a smooth transition to a second Trump administration. All right? We're ready. The world is watching what's taking place here. We're going to count all the votes. When the process is complete, there'll be electors selected. There's a process. The Constitution lays it out pretty clearly. The world should have every confidence that the transition necessary to make sure that the State Department is functional today, successful today, and successful with the president who's in office on January 20th, a minute afternoon, will also be successful. I went through a transition on the front, and I've been on the other side of this. I'm very confident that we will do all the things that are necessary to make sure that the government, the United States government, will continue to perform its national security function as we go forward.
So you believe there's widespread voter fraud, that the reports that we're getting from Pennsylvania, from Michigan, showing vote totals in massive leads or significant leads with 99% reporting are going?
At that press conference, Tom, it was right after Biden won the elections. Here it is, Mike Pompeo, then Secretary of State, is saying there will be a second Trump swearing in as of January 20th. That wasn't nice for democracy at all. But how can Americans, how can people trust Mike Pompeo going around to meet with people like Irfan to talk about democracy, free and fair elections, and all these sort of things?
Well, what you should know about Mike Pompeo is that he plays the role he plays regardless of who's president. Okay, I'm not saying he's above the law, but what I'm saying is that he operates in a world of power that sometimes the office of the presidency can't touch. That's just the reality. So everyone thinks, oh, the president of the United States is the most powerful around. Nah, man, the president is a very weak position. For a president to go after somebody, he has to jump through all these hoops, and there's all these rules and all these things in place to make it almost impossible for a president to get anything done. I'm just telling you now. So because of that, there are people like Mike Pompeo who actually sometimes hold more power in the world than the president himself on some issues. Believe it or not, this is what happens. So no, he holds a lot of credibility in the eyes of many people around the world. So when he's going down to Guyana, it's sending a message to everyone who's watching. Ooh, something is going to happen down there huge. That's the only reason why he's there. And the reason why it says that is because if anyone knows anything about Guyana and the history, no one from the United States has ever cared about Guyana, period. It's always been a country that we just said, who cares? All of a sudden now we have this big guy, Pompeo. He's always hanging around Guyana. People around the world notice this, and it sends the message, okay, that he's making big moves.
He's not going other countries to pay this private visit to the presidents or the prime minister. They don't do that to other countries. Not even Jamaica, not even Barbados, but he's going to Guyana. He's a former Secretary of State going to have a private meeting with a sitting.
He's a powerful man. No, he's a powerful man. When you understand the power structure of America, what you realize is that the political class is only one aspect of the power of the United States. We have a huge power base in our private sector in corporate America. It's massive. And Pompeo right now is a leader in that sector, right? I'm just telling you, as a private citizen.
He's also, before he became head of the CIA, Trump chose him as head of the CIA, and then after that, the State Department. He was a businessman. Him and his partner, they were making equipment for oil companies too.
That's what I'm saying. So that's what I'm saying to you. His power is coming from the private sector in the United States. And I'm telling you right now, in many cases, that power base makes him more powerful than even the president sometimes in certain areas in the world. I'm telling you. Go ahead. Yeah, but that's the magic of America, right? That we're not ruled by one man. We can't be. Like, we have many, many people that are powerful players who can do many, many things. And Pompeo is one of those guys. Okay. He knows a lot. He has a lot of connections, and people around the world respect him. So when he starts making moves in Guyana, man, everyone's paying attention to that. And it's a big deal. It's a big deal.
Yeah. So it could also be business for Mike down there.
It is business for Mike. No doubt about it. It's business for him, for sure. Yeah. That's why I say if he took a brown bag, okay, fine. That's what they want to pay him with. But at the end of the day, like, this is all business for us. This is what we do as Americans, right? So what he's doing is what Americans do.
Could the conversation also have been about China and China getting a heck of a lot of the contracts and American businesses? Because I know former U.S. Ambassador to Guyana, Sarah Ann Lynch, actually spoke about the hassle that American businessmen or business folks have been getting in Guyana. They're not getting that opportunity, but the Chinese are getting most of the contracts, all sorts of deals the Chinese are getting. Could that conversation have been about China as well?
Well, I don't know if it would be about that. I think the issue with the reason why I think China is getting all these opportunities is because there really isn't a banking structure for Western interests in Guyana. There just isn't. And in order to have influence, you have to have money. You have to have resources. And how can Western interests get resources in Guyana if there are no resources to get at? Whereas the Chinese have put down resources there so that their businesses can access capital easily, so that they can do business in country. And so what happens is people like Pompeo come in. He's being tasked to do certain things for some big corporations, right? And he has to get the job done. Well, if there's no banking operation for Western businesses to get the capital they need to run the operations in Guyana, do what they need to do, then he has to get partnerships with who can, and that's the Chinese, right? So that's, he's not discussing the banking issues going on in Guyana, but I can tell you that's the type of thing that the opposition should be lobbying the Washington, D.C. for, right? Is to be able to have a JP Morgan Chase bank in Georgetown, to have American banks there in Georgetown. Like, that's important, because if you get those, then guess what happens? China doesn't have a chance on any other projects.
Absolutely. It's 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 10 o'clock Guyana time. Good evening to all of you. I know you guys don't want Tom to go, but Tom, as we are looking for at a showdown between President Biden and Donald Trump.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how that is going to work out. I see a lot of people in the audience are saying, no way Trump could ever get reelected. But it's the same thing that people were saying when Trump first ran for office. No way, somebody like Trump. Oh, heck no. And it happened. But what is your take on that showdown, the American elections this year, showdown? And we'll talk about 2025 showdown in Guyana and the possibilities of who is the best person to beat their finale. But let's touch Joe Biden and a possibility of Trump showdown here in America.
Well, I mean, the problem, we have some issues with our own elections here. Okay. We've got serious issues because this election between Biden and Trump, it's not about the two men. This is about two separate directions for the world, because wherever America goes, the world is going to go regardless. And so the direction that Trump wants to go is a direction of pure profit across the board. If there are resources in Guyana to be had to make money off of, then Trump is for whatever it takes to get those resources. If some people on the ground don't want their land taken, Trump believes, take it from them. He doesn't care. And look, I'm not knocking that. I'm just telling you, he's the guy who believes that this world should be based on profits and profits alone. Period. He believes that we should have a world based on whoever can get access to the resources and sell them. That's who should rule the world. And that's it. Everybody else, shut your mouth. That's his perspective. And let me tell you something. The Chinese love that perspective. The Russians love that perspective. There's certain peoples and countries and cultures in this world who they want America to be all about just pure profit, and whatever it takes to get at resources wherever they are in the world, go get them, no matter what it takes. Even in the United States, even in America, Trump is willing, if there's oil somewhere here, even if it pollutes everything, he doesn't care. Go get it. Doesn't care, right? That's the one direction. The other direction, which is the Biden direction, and that's what the Trump people here call the globalists, guys. What they want is, they don't want a world that's based on whoever gets the resources gets to be king. They don't want that world. They want a world where climate change is dealt with. And if climate change is being dealt with, well, then you can't really be getting at resources now, can you? that getting at natural resources on the planet is the biggest driver to climate change. Why? Because you're destroying the forests, you're killing the trees, you're sucking up all the oil, you're burning it everywhere. Yeah. So the Biden people are not for that future. Well, the issue with that is that if you're not about getting the resources and you're not about the wealth, then you run into a problem of countries being poor. And when they're poor, what do you do? Like, do you allow them to starve? And this is the juggling act that the Biden people in that line of political thought, this is where they're having their problem, because you can't just let people starve. You actually have to have, if you want to save the planet from climate change, you have to have a real plan that makes it so that people aren't starving because you are trying to save the planet. We're saving the planet for humans, I'm assuming. Yes, for everyone, but we want it to be saved for us. If we die before it's saved, what's the point? And so that's where they're running into, and that's where the two sides are crashing, right? You've got the pure greed versus the guys who want to save the earth, and they're not finding a middle ground. And so that's what this election is coming down to. And when you think about it, in the United States and around the world, economically, we're all suffering, right? And so this is why Trump has a chance. This is why Trump could win, because Trump's message to the world is, stop suffering. Okay, stop the suffering. Let's just get money. Let's go get paid. Who cares about the people in the jungle over there? Just take it. There's a few people, they'll die. Who cares? Take it all. If we do that, then we're all going to be happy and we're all going to be living good, right? That's his message. And I'm going to tell you, man, for people who are struggling, they like that message. They want to get paid. Everybody wants to get paid. That's his message. And I'm telling you, if he becomes president, he will implement this. And you will see from his perspective, it's a bonanza of making money. But in reality, because of the world we live in, it's going to be a massive looting. That's what it's going to be. A huge looting of everything. It's already happening now. It's going to go into something you can't even imagine, right? He doesn't care. And most people like Trump who are wealthy in the United States, they don't care. And the reason why they don't care is because they're sheltered from the effects of their decisions. See, they can be greedy and ride around and live on Fifth Avenue, live in these gated communities, and none of the insanity that is inflicted on other people around the world to make the profits ever touches them, right? So from his perspective and the perspective of Pompeo, these guys don't care. They don't see the suffering. They couldn't care less. In their minds, the suffering comes from being too poor. And in their minds, they think the best way to fix Guyana is to let everybody get rich off of getting whatever resource they can get to sell it. This is their attitude, right? And so that's the difference. And that's what's really being voted on by the American people. Is this world going to be looted, or is it going to be preserved somehow? Is the question. And we're sort of at that road now. Which way are we going to go? Unfortunately, for the Biden people who want to preserve the world, they're not doing a good job of it. They're messing it up. It's really bad how they're doing it. Now, I'm not going to blame them totally. Of course, the Trump people and these guys make it hard on those guys. But that Biden side has to find a way. If they're going to win, they have to find a way to make a pitch to the American people that is believable, that they will believe that will fix our economic problems. They have to. Now, to me, the answer to that is Biden's going to have to step away a little bit from the climate change stuff. And he's going to have to allow some profits to be made. Okay. He's going to have to do it. And I think if he does that, he wins, right? But if they keep going down the road they're going now, which is totally opposed to everything Trump says about making money and getting rich, they might lose, actually. That Trump might win, man, if these guys don't get serious and start paying attention to the economy, and not just ours, but the world's.
Recently, there was this report came out that shows that millions of jobs, probably the best ever in the history of America, millions of jobs recently created under the Biden administration, giving people hope. That sort of hope, apart from the climate change. We know Trump doesn't believe in climate change. He doesn't want that, and you are correct. He's all about profit. And he will basically, dictators like Kim Jong-un and so forth and others in the world, they would love to have a Trump there because Trump seems to get along very well with dictators.
Yes. No, that's what. So everybody wants to get paid in this world, right? And Trump is the guy. He symbolizes getting paid. When you think of the name Trump, it's getting paid, right? So like he's got a good thing going for this election, right? Because that's his pitch, man. Let's get paid. The problem with all of it is there are ways to get paid without being a jerk and without destroying entire Amazon jungles, right? There are ways to do it. I don't think he cares that much at this point. And I think there's a desperation in the air to make it so that we can make decisions here in the United States that can do some real damage around the world and no one really care about it and no one pay attention to it because everyone's just focused on getting these economies right.
Tom, before we go, I want to ask your take. Look into this crystal ball, a showdown in 2025 to beat them. How possible it is to beat the PPP, and what's your prediction? Because you've been almost accurate in a lot of things. But let's take a quick break. Hopefully you'll understand Antigata and what Antigata is saying here.
Yeah, my name is Jacinty Caldata, Francis Vietnam, and since 1965 I become a voter, and I always place my ex next to the cup. And what they are doing today, I can't take it. So I have no more vote to give to PPP anymore. I'm not going to vote anymore no more. If they have to lose by one vote, they're losing it by data.
You understand what you said?
Absolutely, yeah. So here's the deal, and you brought this up earlier. What has to happen, and she's correct, by the way. she's very attuned to what's happening. So let me go back to the Biden-Trump thing, all right? Because this ties into what she's saying. In order for Biden to beat Trump, he has to not sell what he's done as far as the jobs he's created or the economy being good. What he has to sell is a future economy with even more jobs than he already has created, a future economy with even more money. That's what he has. That's what the election is. He can't be talking about, oh, I did this and that, so vote me in now. No, he has to talk about, well, this is what I'm going to do after I'm elected. If you loved the 2 million jobs you got when I was president, I have a plan to get 6 million jobs. And if he can make it, that's how you win. So let's go to Guyana in the PPP and the opposition party. Someone has to craft a message and has to run on a message for an election about the future of Guyana, right? Not just today or yesterday, but the future. And how are you going to be able to make Guyana be that diamond in the rough for the entire world to look at and see as an example to live by? How do you create that, right? You need to have people running for office that have that vision and know Guyana and have a plan that they can explain to the people that say step by step, this is how we get there. That's not happening. That's how this guy, Dr. Ali, gets defeated, is someone from the opposition has to craft a vision for the future that is the rightful place for Guyana in the world. And it has to be one in which the people of Guyana are taken care of first before everything else happens, right? So that's the key. It's about the future. It's about what these people can do once they're elected, how they can help transform the country, Guyana, and the United States with Biden, how he can help transform us here. And I think that's for everyone in the world right now. We're finally at a point, because of technology and everything else, where we need to have elected officials who can see the future and who can craft a future for everyone that people can look at and say, wow, that looks great. That's something that I can buy into. That's what we need. And I think that's what she was saying is that she's done. She's seen what everyone has done in the past. It's all crap. She's not going to deal with the PPP anymore. She's done with them. She knows that they're not getting anything done. Fine. But what needs to happen and what she needs is an elected official, someone running for office from the opposition that can say to her, we know what you're upset about with the past. This is how we're going to fix that going forward. We're going to do this, 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 and that. Give me your vote. That's what has to happen. And I think if that happens, I think the opposition, whoever it is, they win pretty easily, in my opinion. And I think Biden wins as well if he can do the same thing.
Hopefully the opposition will get their act together. Hopefully they'll have someone as a presidential candidate who can do that trick.
Well, you know, and I'll tell you one other thing too. The opposition will go a long way for them to be, like I say, to have a higher view of things. They should really start getting involved with Washington, D.C. They should be getting involved with the ABC countries. They should be getting involved with bringing these ABCs to Guyana under their purview for what they are selling to the people of Guyana to get their vote. That's what should be happening, in my opinion.
And it is your opinion. A lot of people agree with your opinion, except they don't agree. Most of them don't agree with you with one thing. And here's what they don't agree with you, Tom, before we go. This is what they don't agree with you. You see this guy here?
Mm-hmm.
Irfan Ali. That's Irfan Ali.
Yeah.
Irfan Ali claimed that he attended the University of IFLA. They don't know where he got his first degree. They question his second degree and all manner of things and lots of question marks, Tom. And so majority of the folks who are watching this program are very uncomfortable with Irfan Ali being addressed as Dr. Ali.
I know. I do it on purpose.
They believe, and rightly so, they just do not take this guy seriously at all. I mean, who wrote his PhD, his thesis? Who got it? IFLAT University? Nobody knows where he got his first degree and all. 19 fraud charges? I don't know. Tom, I want you to listen to this before we go. Please, listen to this. We got to leave. If you can interpret, tell me what this guy that you call Dr. Ali, I know you said you do it just for the heck of it. Fun. But look at this guy. Interpret what he's saying for us, please, Tom.
Yeah.
Where's our operator? Let's go. Here.
The next measure that I want to speak about is one that I'm very excited about. We care tremendously about the women in our society. And one of the issues that has been affecting women across the world is cervical cancer. And we have
you heard of cervical cancer?
What is that?
Let's go back to it again.
The next measure that I want to speak about is one that I'm very excited about. We care tremendously about the women in our society. And one of the issues that has been affecting women across the world is cervical cancer. And we have said
cervical. Oh, God.
Cervical. And that's Dr. Ali, to you.
Oh, no.
Cervical.
Oh,
Cervical.
no. He needed to. I learned this when I was out in LA helping make a TV show out there. There's this one guy, a host of a show. What he would always do before he would start a show is he would read the entire teleprompter script all the way through before the show started, and so that way he wouldn't make those mistakes. Dr. Ali needs to read his stuff before he actually says it publicly, so that way he could say cervical and not cervical. I don't know what that was.
And that is why we got to go back to this lady. We got to go back as we wrap up. We got to go back to her.
Yeah, my name is Jacinty Caldata, Francis Vietnam, and since 1965, I become a voter, and I always place my ex next to the cup. And what they are doing today, I can't take it. So I have no more vote to give to PPP anymore. I'm not going to vote anymore no more. If they have to lose by one vote, they're losing it by data.
The next measure that I want to speak about is one that I'm very excited about. We care tremendously about the women in our society. And one of the issues that has been affecting women across the world is cervical cancer.
New word in the dictionary, cervical cancer. Tom, I forgot your friend Britt Jagdeo, who is said to have a big bank account in China, according to information. This is what he had to say about a female opposition MP. Listen to this, and we'll get your take and your closing remarks for all Guyanese.
Even our border. And from someone, a low life like that, you.
A member of parliament, a female member of parliament, happened to be of African descent. He wouldn't do that to anybody else. Sorry, I'm sounding like Trump. What is your take on him describing a member of parliament, his colleague, so to speak, as a low life?
Well, remember, when we started off the show, right, you were asking me, why do I love Guyana so much? Well, one of the reasons why is because I discovered Guyana when stumbling over Jack Dale's corruption. That's how I even discovered Guyana, was through his corruption. And so, he's an unfortunate story for me because I understand that he grew up starting off as a very poor man in a very poor place in Guyana. And you would think that someone who started off with such humble beginnings, when they get later on in life and they're highly educated and they're in a position of power, that they can do more for the people that were in his position so that they don't have to go through the troubles and travails that he went through. And instead, it seems like what he's done in a leadership role in Guyana over the years has made it more difficult for the poor people in Guyana to be able to do for themselves, to be able to get educated and other things. So it seems like things have gotten harder and the wealth of the country has increased. And so it's just a head scratcher. But with that said, I think, one of the main reasons why I've always felt a connection to Guyana and I love Guyana is because no matter how much the people have been put through by their leaders like Jack Dale, they have consistently stayed true to who they are. They've consistently held on to hope and consistently been in a position to be able to do well for themselves and their family, regardless of all the things that have been thrown on top of them to prevent them from doing these things. And so the people of Guyana are people who are fighting people, and I just bond with that. I just do. And so I can't help but to want to help those people who have been hurt so bad for so long. That's why, man. And that's why I'm here tonight.
And it just reflects on our connection over the years, over quite a long time, Tom. Quite a long time dealing with a lot of issues. Quite a long time.
Almost 15 years. It's been a while.
Absolutely. Quite a while.
Yeah.
All about Guyana. But putting that aside, what hope do you have to offer people? People want the hope. regime is extremely corrupt, discriminatory, just name it, everything, corruption upon corruption. The oil well doesn't go to the people. For the most part, we have sleeping opposition, weak leadership all across the board. What hope would you like to leave Guyana with this evening, sir?
Well, here's my hope is that that the opposition party can finally get to a point where they can put Guyana above the PPP, above their own party, and start to craft a vision for the people of Guyana for the future that is good for everyone, even those in the PPP. Somebody has to make the country more important than the politics. Someone has to. And so my hope is that not only will Guyana have one person, but many people who can do this for the country, because that's what's needed more than anything, in my opinion, is are people who can rise above the political fray and do what's best for Guyana, period, first and foremost and always. That's my hope. And I believe in my heart that Guyana is right on the cusp of this. I do. I believe that though the opposition has been weak, and though they have been maybe a little silent, and though they have been messing up, and though the PPP has been very abusive and been very bad and very wasteful and slothful, even through all of that, I still feel like Guyana is in a position to have a great future. It's just going to take a group of people, probably from the opposition party, to put the country above all, no matter what. And I think that's my hope, and I think it's possible.
I think it's possible indeed. Tom, we have to have a nice bank spare, lots of other things to talk about. But don't be a stranger. I know you've been busy with lots of other things, and hope to have you back very soon right here on 107.1 FM.
Hey, thank you, and good night to everyone. Thank you. Really appreciate it. It was fun, man. It was fun. And I will be back on soon. Yes.
Give my regards to your family. Wonderful
Thanks.
family. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you. All right. Good night, everyone.
Tom Anderson there. Not much more that I wish to add other than the PPP must go. The opposition must get its act together. The opposition must get its act together. They have to have a proper team. They have to craft out a plan, proper people in place from a foreign affairs perspective and so forth. You can't just go with what you have now. Politics is not about just put the camera on and talk just to get some sort of sympathy. And I notice after the budget, this so-called $1 trillion budget, where nothing goes to the people, suddenly some of them are talking about the ordinary people and working class. You know, it takes more than that. These sound bites doesn't work. Snapping photographs and selfies doesn't work. It doesn't work. Experience on the ground, crafting a proper plan. Let the people see that you are ready to take over the next government. Let them see that. We're not seeing that right now. A couple of people just running around fighting to be leader, who want to be leader. And then the leader is not being the kind of leader that we should see out there as a leader. I don't know what's happening. Y'all pray. Don't only pray for Guyana. Pray for the opposition too. They need a heck of a lot of praying. God bless you all. I'll be back tomorrow, same place, same time, right here on 107.1 FM. I'll try to get Wayne Caesar. He hasn't been on for the week, but we'll try to get him tomorrow. God bless you. And for those of you who are celebrating your birth anniversary, happy birthday. We love you. If you have an unfortunate situation in your family, we pray for you as well. And those of you who sent out greetings to my little boy, Jonathan, thank you all so much on behalf of him. We appreciate it so much. God bless you.
So this is attorney Shellen Washington, owner and founder of the Washington law firm located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-5600. 3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.
Bamboo fire make soup, he make soup. Bamboo fire make soup, he make soup. Bamboo fire make soup, he make soup. 6 o'clock and the thing not ready. Bamboo fire make soup. 6 o'clock and the thing not ready. Bamboo fire make soup. 6 o'clock and the thing not ready. Bamboo fire make soup. 6 o'clock and the thing not ready. Bamboo fire make soup. Bamboo fire make soup, he 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 make soup. Bamboo fire, hot, hot fire. Bamboo fire make soup, make soup. Bamboo fire, hot, hot fire. Bamboo fire make soup, make soup. Bamboo fire, hot, hot fire. Bamboo fire make soup, make soup. Bamboo fire, hot, hot fire. Bamboo fire make soup, make soup. Give me the water, be out of the fire. Bamboo fire make soup, he make soup. Give me the water, be out of the fire. Bamboo fire make soup, he make soup. Give me the water, be out of the fire. Bamboo fire make soup, he make soup. Give me the water, be out of the fire. Bamboo fire make soup, he make soup. Bamboo fire make soup. Bamboo fire make soup. Bamboo fire make soup.
So, this is attorney Shellin Washington, owner and founder of the Washington law firm located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.
With another one, straight up, blackness I am. Aye. Who tell the truth? Mark Ben stop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Ben stop, registration is the fruit. Mark Ben stop, straight up from the root. Mark Ben stop, who tell the truth? Mark Ben stop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Ben stop, registration is the fruit. Mark Ben stop, straight up from the root. Mark Ben stop, I do it for the love, him not do it for no money. Straight up, him attack, educating everybody. Big up my friends and big up my family. Turn on the radio, catch the vibes, it's integrity. Straight up, Ben Scott stands for unity. One people, one nation, one destiny. Free up the truth in the air, even the blind can see. The deaf can need it, don't contact the crip can walk. Who tell the truth? Mark Ben stop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Ben stop, registration is the fruit. Mark Ben stop, straight up from the root.
The next measure that I want to speak about is one that I'm very excited about. We care tremendously about the women in our society. And one of the issues that has been affecting women across the world is cervical cancer.